Give me liberty or give me disco. Actually, I'm even money on that one. I don't mind which one I get. However, Jonathan Ayling from the Free Speech Union, you'd be more of a liberty guy than a disco guy, I'm guessing. Would that be?
I'm weird like that, Andrew. I think probably human disposition is, give us circus and buns and we're fine, aren't we? But
having said that, though, as a member of the Free Speech Union, I'm sure you could. You've got some dance moves, but we won't get into those now. Wanting today, instead of that, to talk about, this is something which we were talking about a while ago, a young man from Taranaki, from New Plymouth Boys High School, who gave an award-winning speech, but then the principal said, well, if you're going to take that to an inter-school competition, we need you to edit it. We need you to change it, because if you say that speech, then people will get upset. This is something which the Free Speech Union drew our attention to, but wait, there's more. Some more details on this one, Jonathan.
Absolutely, and upset teenagers. We couldn't have that, could we? And This is an interesting one for me, Andrew, because we take court cases to the Supreme Court, and we go and we lobby the Minister of Justice on pending legislation and such. And a speech competition of a year 11 in New Plymouth Boys High School kind of doesn't exactly seem to be the most pressing element of the fight for free speech in New Zealand. But I actually feel quite connected to this case and the other individual cases that we take on, because this is what censorship looks like. There's a very human cost to intolerance and to shutting down discussion. And the questions that have kept me going and interested in this case is what is this experience actually teaching Oliver or others like him in his school around speaking out, about saying what matters to you, around making articulate and reasoned cases for the beliefs you hold. Oliver wrote a speech that he entitled The Demise of the West. And in it, he talks about a number of quite traditional features. He's not religious. His family is not religious. But he talked about some quite traditional features around women in homes, around the education system, around Judeo-Christian values, and that the West is facing this existential crisis. Yeah. He was told that by a teacher and then later by the deputy principal that this would be an upsetting speech to give, and that he needed to think about the implications that would have for his reputation, and that he simply was not allowed to give it. Now, in a somewhat predictable fashion, as censorship does tend to always backfire, he has now been able to give the speech on other media platforms. I think it's been listened to about 60,000 times. Tomorrow, we're going to be hosting him in Parliament with an eminent Oxford professor, Professor Nigel Biggar. David Seymour will be there. Penny Simmons, the Tertiary Education Minister, will be there. He's going to have his platform. But the issue still remains that the school thought it was not only their right but their duty to protect the feeble and weak minds of their students from ideas that would upset them. All ideas? No, not exactly all ideas. Of course not all ideas. Some upset we need to lean into. Some ideas we need to be made uncomfortable by. Last year, the winner of the speech competition spoke on co-governance. Okay. Do you imagine that no one was upset by that? I imagine some people were upset by that. And the person who spoke on co-governance had every right to do that, and every right to upset individuals whose inability to deal with these issues at a rational level means that they responded emotionally. And of course, that is the issue. If individuals are being upset, offended, and insulted by these issues, that is an emotional response. It is not a rational response. And we need to be insisting that our schools are an environment where individuals and young leaders are told that they need to be able to deal with ideas that they disagree with, to present counter arguments and raise counter speech, not leave impacted emotionally and unable to deal with the fact that others might disagree with them.
Now, New Plymouth Boys High have doubled down on this one a little bit. They've and actually your move, Free Speech Union, you've published a transcript online. What's the details there? Well,
look, Oliver anticipated that he wasn't going to be given a fair hearing on this, and actually went into a meeting with the assistant principal, the deputy headmaster, and recorded it. And that's not exactly a tactic or an action that we would condone at large. It's a fairly serious thing to go in and not inform someone that you're recording the conversation. But I would say at this point, Oliver seems to have been justified in that, because all he has faced since that meeting is gaslighting and deflection. And if he didn't have this transcript, we wouldn't be able to help him at all. But with it, we can exactly see what the assistant headmaster said. And I would say that this man needs to really consider what sort of environment he is creating. When one of my staff members reviewed the transcript, he said, it reads like something from Animal Farm. And one of the quotes is, you could argue it's a well-written speech, but right now, if you gave it as it is, it will upset people in the audience, and I don't want that. If you're the best speaker on show, then you should be able to deliver a speech that makes people feel good, or at least entertains, or is thought-provoking, but absolutely does not upset people. I don't think it's a winning speech. I equally think it will upset people, and I'm not willing to take the risk, Oliver, to let you give that.
Wow.
No, you listen to me, because you're a year 11 student, and you need to understand that you will upset people. And the underlying problem is that I don't want you to hurt your reputation.
Oh.
And I think Oliver Jull is displaying the courage and the conviction that I wish more young people in this country had for their beliefs. Do I agree with everything he said? Certainly not. Mm-hmm. But he stood up, he made a reasoned, referenced, footnoted argument for why he saw it the way he did. And for an assistant principal to suggest that he should have a greater concern for his reputation, that others might not agree with him, so might not like him as much. Well, that's the very worst sort of influence I think we should be having on our young people and their belief in standing up for what they believe in.
First up, I just need to let you know, Jonathan, that this conversation is being recorded, just in case you were unaware that it was. Secondly, though, it sounds like this young man has a bright career ahead of him in politics, law, or even at the Free Speech Union.
We would have him happily, and not because of his intelligence, though he does seem to be intelligent, not because of articulate nature, though he does seem to be articulate. I would hire him probably on the spot because of his courage. Yeah. And courage seems to be one of the greatest absent virtues in our society nowadays. And whenever I see this courage, even frequently when it is from those that I disagree, it is something that is so absent in our public discourse. To be willing to present the case and dare let, and here's a word that might shock your audience, dare let the truth be challenged. That's an antiquated concept. This is how we explore the truth. Yeah. I was at a conference at Vanderbilt University last week, and someone stood up and said, yes, of course we should allow free speech, but only for things that are true. If you're spreading untruths in your free speech, you shouldn't be allowed to do it. Well, if we knew what the truth was universally already, we wouldn't need free speech. Mm-hmm. But free speech is how we discover the truth. And it seems remarkable that schools have now become these places where individual students need to be coddled to such an extent. It really makes me wonder, what will they be able to do at university? What will they be able to do in the world? I think polarization is occurring in our society. And yes, social media has a role to play in that. Yes, other features have a role to play in that. But I think the fact that we have not equipped children with the basic tools to be able to disagree is central to it. And I don't know if there is a word other than blatant hypocrisy for, and that's two words, I guess, for the fact that one year a winner can speak on co-governance and be applauded for their courage, and the next is kind of a form of the counter view, so to speak, is shut down because it would upset people. Yeah. This does not bode well for our ability as a society to move forward together with difference.
Just finally on this one, apart from giving a platform to this young man, and I hope it goes well in Parliament, what do you hope to be the outcome of this? What next for the Free Speech Union and your engagement with New Plymouth Boys High?
Look, all we've wanted from the very start is an apology, to admit that they got this wrong. This sets a deeply troubling precedent, and we need to correct it. And they need to say, we got this wrong. We were overly cautious. We made a mistake here, thinking that we could just go with the simpler, easier option. And I agree. Free speech is challenging. A speech competition where people say things that upset others, that is work for teachers to deal with.
Yeah.
But that is their job. And that is exactly what they're there to do, is not to simply tell them facts and what to think, but to create an environment where they learn how to think. And the fact that students would be upset by this is not something to ignore. I have never had any time for sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That is nonsense. Absolutely, the school must pay attention to the fact that people will be upset about this, but they need to help them grow up.
Yeah.
That is their job. They need to help them learn that they are still okay, even though others do disagree with them. They need to learn that if others disagree with them, you present a counter argument, you don't throw your toys. And right now the precedent is otherwise, and we need to set that right.
And hey, you give the clear message that bullying is not okay, even from vice principals, perhaps.
That's right.
Jonathan, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.